There's an almost mystical secret about wealth that most people have never discovered. A principle so simple and at the same time so profound that Wattles dedicated his life to studying it. This is not just another method to get rich. It is a fundamental truth that completely reorganizes your relationship with money and wealth. Most people live as if wealth is a privilege, or worse, as if it is a constant battle against scarcity. We look at our resources as something finite, something that needs to be protected and saved. This mentality is so ingrained in our culture that we rarely question it. Wattles, however, saw something different, something revolutionary. He saw that the multiplication of wealth follows immutable laws as reliable as gravity or magnetism. And the first of these laws is disturbing in its simplicity. Wealth flows to those who think a certain way. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract financial opportunities, even at the most unlikely times? Why do some manage to multiply their wealth while others, even with apparently identical strategies, remain stagnant? The answer is not in the methods. It's not in the tactics. It's not in the tools. It's in the mind. More specifically, it's in the mental field you create before you even make any financial decision. What Wattles discovered, and which has revolutionized the lives of thousands of people since then, is that multiplying assets is not primarily an economic science, it is a mental science. The outer world always aligns with the inner world. Your external assets are just a faithful reflection of your mental assets. This discovery opens a portal to a new dimension of possibilities. Imagine for a moment that your ability to multiply wealth is not limited by your financial education, your family background, or even the global economy. Imagine that the only real limiter, is how you think about money. Does it seem too simple to be true? This is exactly where most people give up before they even start. The mind conditioned by scarcity resists simple solutions. She seeks complexity because she believes that only through effort and struggle would come reward. Wattles saw beyond this illusion. The ability to receive wealth is directly proportional to how clearly you can think about abundance while looking at apparent scarcity. He wrote, "This phrase contains the essence of the secret that has transformed the financial lives of countless people over the last century. What you are about to discover is not just another financial strategy. It is a fundamental realignment of your relationship with the very idea of heritage. It's the key to a forgotten portal, a portal that has always been there before you, waiting to be crossed. The biggest obstacle to multiplying your wealth is not in the external world. It lies in an inconvenient truth that few are willing to face. Most of us have been programmed for a dysfunctional relationship with money." Wattles realized this when he said, "There's nothing wrong with the desire to be rich. The desire for wealth is really the desire for a fuller, more abundant life, and that desire is praiseworthy." This statement directly confronts centuries of cultural conditioning. From childhood, we absorb contradictory messages about money. Money doesn't buy happiness, we are told, while simultaneously being pressured to chase it. The rich are greedy, we hear, while secretly longing for abundance. This mental schizophrenia about wealth creates what Wattles called a vibrational block, an unconscious resistance to the very thing we consciously desire. The inconvenient truth is that your current wealth, whatever it may be, is perfectly aligned with your mental programming about money. It's not an accident. It's not bad luck. It is the precise and scientific result of the way you have been conditioned to think about wealth. When Wattles talked about thinking a certain way, he wasn't proposing a simple positive visualization exercise. He was indicating a complete restructuring of the mental architecture in relation to the concept of heritage. This restructuring begins with the recognition that the universe operates by abundance, not scarcity. Observe nature. A single seed can generate a tree that will produce thousands of seeds. A ray of sunlight does not diminish the sun. Water in a river flows continuously. The entire physical universe operates by principles of multiplication and abundance. Only the human mind, conditioned by centuries of scarcity-based thinking, creates the illusion of limitation. Your assets are subject to this same universal law. Wattles wrote, "The essence of all wealth is power. To possess anything, you must have power over it. power to use, enjoy, and direct toward the highest expression of your life. This power begins on the mental plane, not the physical plane. The inconvenient truth that few face is that as long as your mental relationship with money is based on fear, anxiety, or a sense of unworthiness, your wealth will find ways to align with this vibrational frequency. No matter how many investment strategies you know or how many hours you work, the end result will always align with your dominant mindset. Wattles discovered what quantum physics has only recently begun to confirm. Consciousness affects material reality. Your mental state is not just a passive reaction to your financial circumstances. It is the creative field that shapes them. Think about the last time you checked your bank account. What were your dominant thoughts and emotions? Gratitude for the abundance you already have? Or concern about lack and limitation? Your honest answer to this simple question reveals more about your wealth multiplying potential than any market analysis ever could. The inconvenient truth is also the most liberating. You don't need to change the external world to multiply your wealth. You need to change the mental field from which you observe and interact with it. This shift in perspective is the real work of those who desire abundance. As Wattles stated, there is nothing wrong with wanting to get rich. In fact, you cannot rise to your full potential if you do not have an abundance of means. For to develop the soul, you must have many things to use. This perspective transforms the search for heritage from a selfish act to an act of alignment with the natural flow of life. In Wattles' universe, the mental field is like a fertile soil where the seeds of heritage are planted long before any physical manifestation. This field is not abstract or metaphorical. It is a force as real and influential as gravity, just less visible to the ordinary senses. Everything you see in the material world began as a thought in someone's mind, wrote Wattles. He continued, thought is the only power that can produce tangible wealth from the formless substance of the universe. This perspective challenges our conventional understanding, as we have been trained to believe that material reality exists independently of our perception. There's a crucial difference between competitive thinking and creative thinking when it comes to multiplying assets. Competitive thinking operates through the logic of scarcity. For me to win, someone must lose. Creative thinking operates through the logic of abundance. There are enough resources for everyone, and my prosperity contributes to collective prosperity. The scarcity-trained mind constantly asks, how can I protect what I have? The abundance-trained mind asks, how can I expand what I have to benefit myself and others? This simple distinction creates radically different mental fields and, consequently, radically different results. Your current mental field in relation to heritage did not arise by chance. It has been carefully cultivated through years of exposure to family beliefs, cultural influences, and personal experiences with money. The good news is that, just like a garden, this field can be intentionally redesigned and recultivated. The first step to cultivating a mental field of prosperity is the conscious recognition of limiting patterns. Ask yourself, what beliefs about money have I inherited from my family? What subliminal messages have I absorbed from society? What conclusions have I formed from my own financial experiences? Wallace D. Wattles observed that most people operate under three debilitating illusions about wealth. The illusion of limitation, the belief that there is only a fixed amount of wealth available. The illusion of unworthiness, the belief that we do not deserve abundance. And the illusion of separation, the belief that our prosperity exists in isolation from the prosperity of others. To transform the mental field, these illusions need to be replaced with new truths, the truth of infinite abundance. There is always more to be created. The truth of intrinsic worthiness, abundance is your natural state. And the truth of interconnectedness, your prosperity contributes to the collective good. This reprogramming is not an instantaneous process. As Wattles taught, true strength comes from growth by process, not by accretion. Each time you consciously replace a thought of scarcity with a thought of abundance, you strengthen the new mental field. Every time you feel gratitude for what you already have, you fertilize the soil of prosperity. One powerful exercise Wattles recommended was immersive visualization. Take time every day to vividly see and feel the financial reality you want to create, not as a distant desire, but as a present certainty. You must form a clear and definite mental image of what you want, he wrote. You can't convey an idea unless you have it yourself. The quality of this visualization is crucial. It's not enough to vaguely imagine more money or less debt. Visualize with precision and emotion the specific wealth you want to create, how it flows into your life, how you manage it wisely, and how it benefits not just you, but everyone around you. This mental field is not an escape from reality, it is the intentional creation of a new reality. It's the difference between passively reacting to economic circumstances and actively generating new financial possibilities. It is the fertile soil where the seeds of abundance can germinate and flourish. As Wattles declared, thought is the only power that can create tangible wealth out of the formless substance of the universe. Your mental field is not just a reflection of your current assets. It is the architectural model of your future assets. The true revolution that Wattles brought to the world was not just intellectual, it was emotional. He understood that multiplying wealth requires a form of internal alchemy, the ability to transform our emotions related to money. Thought imbued with feeling constitutes a matrix that attracts similar forms, he wrote. This internal alchemy begins with a disturbing recognition. For most people, money is charged with negative emotions. Anxiety when checking your bank balance, fear of losing what you have already achieved, guilt for wanting more, envy when seeing other people's prosperity, shame about past financial mistakes. This toxic emotional cocktail creates what Wattles called a repulsive vibratory environment, an internal state that literally repels opportunities for asset multiplication. Alchemical transformation occurs when we consciously replace these contracting emotions with expansive emotions, gratitude for what we already have, positive expectation for what is coming, joy in the growth process, confidence in the abundance of the universe, generosity with what flows through us. Consider how you feel about making an investment. Most invest out of fear of losing, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of the market collapsing. Wattles noted that this emotional state contaminates the investment from its inception. The same investment, made from an emotional state of trust, joy, and positive expectation, operates at a completely different vibrational frequency and attracts different results. One of the most revolutionary principles Wattles taught was that of anticipatory gratitude, the ability to feel gratitude for something even before its physical manifestation. The law of gratitude is the natural principle that action and reaction are always equal and in opposite directions. He wrote, when you feel true gratitude for an asset that is still on the mental plane, you create a magnetic vacuum that the universe will fill. This practice is not self-deception. It is vibrational alignment. It is the understanding that, at the quantum level of reality, the distinction between I already have and I will have is merely a temporal illusion. As Wattles would say, thoughts of gratitude mingle with thoughts of the substance, from which things are made, impacting them deeply. Another essential alchemical transmutation involves our relationship with the heritage we already possess. Most people look at their current possessions with a sense of limitation. That's all I have. The alchemically transformed mind looks upon the same heritage with a sense of potentiality. This is the seed of my future abundance. Consider the story of Thomas Edison. When his laboratory caught fire in 1914, destroying years of work and causing damage estimated at millions in today's dollars, his first reaction was to call his son and say, "Go get your mother. She'll never see anything like this again." This ability to find fascination and opportunity even in apparent financial calamity is the kind of emotional alchemy that Wattles advocated. The practical technique to begin this alchemy is what we can call a conscious emotional bath. When you interact with any aspect of your wealth, receiving a payment, making an investment, paying a bill, consciously pause to choose the emotional quality you want to infuse into that interaction. Instead of paying bills with resentment, pay them with gratitude for the continued flow. Instead of receiving money with anxiety about its insufficiency, receive it with joy and expectation of multiplication. Over time, this conscious emotional bath transforms not only your relationship with money, but the very nature of money in your life. As Wattles noted, The mental attitude of gratitude draws to you everything you need for a fulfilling life. True alchemy occurs when you realize that money, at its core, is not something you possess. It is something that flows through you. The more freely it flows, the more it multiplies. When you grasp in fear, the flow stagnates. When you allow the flow with trust and gratitude, it naturally expands. Perhaps the most transformative aspect of this alchemy is the freedom from financial anxiety. Don't worry, Wattles wrote. Anxiety is a form of thought, and like all forms of thought, it tends to manifest itself. When we transmute anxiety into calm confidence, we fundamentally change the internal chemistry from which our heritage is formed. Wattles' system for asset multiplication was never just an abstract philosophy. Thought without personal action is useless, he wrote clearly. What distinguished his method from others was the concept of acting in a certain way, a precise, scientific approach to activity that generates exponential results. This certain way of doing things has four distinguishing characteristics that are rarely taught in business schools or conventional finance textbooks. The first is efficiency. Every day, do all the work you can do that day and do each task efficiently. This is not the frantic efficiency that comes from fear and scarcity, but the calm efficiency that flows from mental clarity and inner confidence. The second characteristic is creative versus competitive action. Competitive action asks, how can I outdo others to get my slice of the pie? Creative action asks, how can I add more value and expand the pie for everyone? Wattles insisted that true asset multiplication always comes from the creation of value, not from competition for limited resources. The third characteristic is what we might call aligned action, movement that flows naturally from your highest purpose, not from external obligations. When you do what you want to do, and do it the way you want to do it, you are acting in a certain way, wrote Wattles. This alignment between external action and internal motivation creates a power that purely mechanical actions could never generate. The fourth characteristic, perhaps the most radical, is action from completeness. Most people act from a lack. They work to fill a void, invest to compensate for insecurity, build wealth to prove their worth. Wattles taught the opposite. Act from the inner sense that you are already complete. That abundance is already your essential reality. This state of mind transforms the magnetic quality of your action. To implement this principle, ask yourself before every financial decision, am I acting out of fear or trust? Am I trying to compete or create? Am I moving out of external obligation or internal alignment? Am I acting out of lack or completeness? An often overlooked aspect of the right way is recognizing opportunities. The mind programmed for scarcity is literally unable to perceive certain possibilities that are clearly visible to the mind programmed for abundance. Opportunities multiply as they are seized, observed Wattles, suggesting a quantum relationship between our ability to recognize value and the manifestation of more value in our perceptual field. This recognition goes beyond simple observation. It is a multidimensional perception that integrates intellect, intuition, and purpose. It is the ability to see connections where others see only isolated fragments. It's what allowed Steve Jobs to connect handwriting with computer design, or Elon Musk to connect online payments with space exploration. Acting in a certain way also includes a peculiar quality of detachment from immediate results. Do everything you can do where you are, and when a bigger opportunity arises, which it certainly will, you'll be ready, Wattles advised. This is not a detachment born of indifference, but of deep trust in the natural process of multiplication. Consider how this principle manifests itself in agriculture. The farmer plants the seed, tends the soil, and trusts that natural laws will do the rest. He doesn't dig up the seed every day to check if it's growing. Likewise, action in a certain way involves conscious planting followed by patient trust in the growth process. There is still a fundamental aspect of effective action that Wattles emphasized: precision. The power of attention is the gateway to knowledge, he wrote. This precise attention, this ability to focus completely on what is in front of you, creates an energetic density that exponentially amplifies the results of your action. It's the difference between diffuse light and laser light. Same energy, radically different impact. Action in a certain way is rarely the most obvious or the most common. It often goes against established conventions and popular wisdom. As Wattles observed, you must perform the common tasks of life in an uncommon way. This principle explains why people with seemingly identical strategies can achieve drastically different results. The difference is not in what they do, but in the consciousness from which they do it. At the heart of Wattles' philosophy on asset multiplication lies a seemingly insoluble paradox. The less we attach ourselves to assets, the more they multiply. The moment you hold on to anything, you limit your ability to receive more, he wrote. This truth directly contradicts the conventional mindset that teaches us to grasp, protect, and accumulate. This paradox is not just philosophical, it is deeply practical. Notice how the people most possessive of their money often experience the greatest difficulty in multiplying it. Your attachment creates an energetic field of contraction that literally repels new opportunities. On the other hand, those who maintain a more fluid and confident relationship with wealth seem to attract opportunities in an almost magnetic way. Warren Buffett exemplifies this living paradox. One of the richest men in the world, he lives in a modest house purchased in 1958 and plans to give away more than 99% of his fortune. Your relationship with money is not one of desperate attachment, but of conscious management. This fluidity, this fundamental detachment, is at the heart of its ability to multiply assets. The paradox also extends to our relationship with financial security. The obsessive search for security often leads us to fear-based decisions, which ironically create more insecurity. As Wattles observed, the desire for security becomes your greatest insecurity. This vicious cycle can only be broken when we abandon the illusion of absolute control and embrace the dynamic nature of prosperity. Consider how this paradox manifests itself in investment strategies. The attached investor, driven by fear of loss, often sells prematurely in periods of volatility, converting temporary fluctuations into permanent losses. The detached investor, based on deeper trust, sees the same volatility as an opportunity and naturally makes decisions more aligned with long-term multiplication. This paradox has a quantum explanation. At the quantum level, particles exist as potentialities until they are observed. In the same way, heritage exists as potentiality until it is fixed by our consciousness. When we hold rigidly to a particular manifestation of wealth, we inhibit its ability to manifest in more expansive and abundant forms. Wattles expressed it in simple terms: to receive your own share when it comes, you must be in action. And that action can only be effective if maintained in a state of mind of continual gratitude. This gratitude is not just a spiritual platitude, it is a vibrational technology that keeps the channel of reception open. To apply this paradox practically, try what Wattles called the practice of conscious release. Regularly allow yourself to mentally let go of all your current assets. Visualize it flowing freely from you to the world and from the world to you in a cycle of constant abundance. Feel the liberation that comes with realizing that you are not your assets. You are the steward of your assets. The underlying fear for most people is, if I let go, I will lose everything. The paradoxical truth is, when you let go, you create space to receive more. This is not an irresponsible letting go. It is a conscious letting go, grounded in the understanding that true abundance is a flow, not a static condition. This paradox explains why desperate attempts to multiply assets often produce the opposite. As Wattles wrote, when you try to impress your will upon substance, without being in harmony with creative intelligence, you use your will against the current of the universe. This resistance creates friction that wastes energy and limits results. Conversely, when we align our will with the natural flow of abundance, when we allow rather than force, when we trust rather than control, when we express rather than impress, we create a state of non-resistance that allows for organic multiplication. Henry Ford understood this paradox when he said, "Money is never an end in itself, but only a means to an end." By treating heritage as a tool for expressing purpose, not as a source of identity or security, he was able to build one of the largest industrial empires in history. The ultimate paradox of multiplication is that it occurs most naturally when we transcend our fixation on multiplication itself. When we focus exclusively on increasing numbers in a bank account, we create a subtle form of scarcity, the feeling of never enough. When we focus on creating value and expressing purpose, multiplication occurs as a natural side effect. Everything we've seen so far converges into a coherent and reproducible science. What Wattles called the science of getting rich. This science is not speculative or abstract. It is as precise and reliable as physics or chemistry. Men get rich by acting in a certain way, and to do the same things that other rich men do. You must learn to think the same way they think, he wrote. The scientific process that Wattles outlined has 4 distinct phases, forming a virtuous cycle of asset multiplication. The first phase is right thinking, the intentional creation of a mental field of abundance. As we explored earlier, this is not a vague or superficial thought, but a precise form of cognition that vibrates in harmony with universal laws. The second phase is aligned feeling, the conscious creation of emotional states that magnetize opportunities rather than repel them. These include gratitude, positive expectation, joy, and a deep sense of entitlement. As Wattles observed, the man who feels gratitude all the time cannot fail to receive the best of all that the world has to offer. The third phase is precise action, efficient, creative, aligned movement in the physical world. This action is not just activity, it is conscious expression of purpose. It is the type of action that creates intrinsic value regardless of immediate external results. The often overlooked fourth phase is receptive recognition, the ability to identify and receive the opportunities that naturally manifest. When the first 3 phases are aligned, many people fail to receive what they ask for because they don't recognize it when it arrives. Wattles wrote, "This cyclical process amplifies itself with each iteration. The more you practice right thinking, the more natural aligned feelings become. The more aligned you feel, the more precise your action becomes. The more precise your action, the more acute your recognition becomes." The beauty of this science is its universal applicability. No matter your starting point, your educational background, or your current circumstances, laws work when applied correctly. As Wattles stated, if you act a certain way, it will inevitably make you rich. To implement this science into practice, start with a daily period of conscious alignment. Take at least 15 minutes each morning to vividly visualize your ideal asset. Feel the heightened emotions associated with it, and plan specific actions aligned with your vision. This daily practice creates a vibrational alignment that eventually manifests as tangible reality. One crucial aspect of this science that Wattles highlighted is consistency. It is necessary to keep your thoughts aligned with the vision of your desire. A sufficient portion of the time, he wrote. This consistency is not obsession, it is commitment. It is the ability to keep your vibrational frequency stable even when the external world seems to contradict your internal vision. The science of heritage attraction also includes what we might call conscious vibrational choice. In each moment, you have the choice to tune into the frequency of scarcity or abundance. This choice is not determined by your external circumstances, but by your internal decision. As Wattles observed, the power to choose comes from consciousness, and consciousness comes only from systematic reflection. Consider how this science explains why some people repeatedly face the same financial patterns. Regardless of external opportunities, they remain trapped in a vibrational cycle that attracts similar experiences. True asset change requires a disruption of this cycle, a conscious recalibration of your vibrational frequency. To master this science, it is essential to develop what Wattles called dynamic concentration, the ability to maintain unwavering focus on your desired goal while remaining flexible about the means of achievement. Think of the form you want, but let the formless intelligence determine its own path, he advised. This balance between clear vision and methodological flexibility is what allows the intelligence of the universe to work through you, not against you. It's the difference between forcing results, which creates resistance, and allowing results, which creates flow. The science of wealth attraction culminates in a state that Wattles described as wealth consciousness, a state of mind. where prosperity becomes your constant subjective reality, regardless of temporary fluctuations in external circumstances. In this state, you are no longer trying to get rich. You are expressing wealth as your essential nature. As Wattles eloquently concluded, the goal of all life is expression and to live fully. Each person must possess all the means necessary for broad physical, mental, and spiritual consumption. It is not wrong to want to possess all that you can use for a full life. By living fully and expressing all that you are capable of expressing, you obtain true happiness. We reached the end of this journey through Wallace D. Wattles' transformative principles on asset multiplication. We saw how the real secret is not in external techniques or complex strategies, but in the internal transformation of your relationship with the idea of abundance itself. The portal to this transformation has always been open before you. The inconvenient truth about your current wealth is that it perfectly represents your mental programming about money up to this point. The prosperity mental field is something you can intentionally cultivate, replacing patterns of scarcity with patterns of abundance. The internal alchemy of money occurs when you transmute contracting emotions like fear and anxiety into expansive emotions like gratitude and trust. Action in a certain way means movement that is precise, creative, and aligned with your highest purpose. The multiplication paradox reveals that the less we cling to wealth, the more freely it flows into our lives. And finally, the science of heritage attraction offers us a repeatable process. Right thinking gives aligned feeling, gives accurate action, gives receptive recognition. Now, you are faced with a fundamental choice. You can treat these ideas as mere interesting theory and continue operating from the same mental patterns that produce your current financial results. Or you can embrace these principles as a new way of being, a new vibrational frequency that will inevitably attract new heritage realities. The call to action is clear and urgent. Start your daily period of conscious alignment today. 15 minutes to visualize, feel, and plan from your most abundant self. Practice conscious vibrational choice every time you interact with money, consciously replacing contracting emotions with expansive emotions. Implement the practice of conscious release. Regularly mentally release all of your current assets, creating energetic space to receive more. Develop dynamic focus, maintaining unwavering focus on your equity objective, while remaining flexible about the means of achievement. Cultivate anticipatory gratitude, feeling true appreciation for the desired asset, as if you already possess it. As Wattles wrote, there is no limit to what the law of attraction can do for you. Dare to believe in your own ideal. Think about what you want and believe in it with unshakable faith. Your wealth is not just what you own. It is the tangible expression of your state of being. By transforming your being, you inevitably transform your material reality. This is the real secret that Wattles discovered and which is now in your hands. The seed of infinite abundance is already planted in your consciousness. The only question that remains is, will you allow it to fully blossom, or will you continue to limit its growth with thoughts of scarcity and doubt? The choice is yours, and the time for that choice is now.